My name is David Bunikowski. Hello, everybody. My name is David Bunikowski. I'm connecting from Eastern Finland, Europe. It's a huge honor for me and privilege to open this technical session 5, number 1, Transhumans, Pastoralism, Rangeland Governance. We have 4 lectures given by experts or faculty members and 5 delegates presentations. They are coming from different countries. While speaking about the experts, they are from United States, Spain, India, and the United Arab Emirates. All this session will take 3 hours. In the end of this session, I will make concluding remarks. Now, I would like to ask Ms. Tanjina Hasnat from the University of Chittagong, Bangladesh, to moderate the session. I will be here for 3 hours listening to the lectures and presentations, and I will make the concluding remarks. So I wish everybody here a very good academic time. Let's enjoy this session. Let's get together in the best academic terms. I think that there will be many interesting ideas put on the table right here. So now I would like to ask Ms. Tanjina Hasnat to moderate the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And welcome to you all in this session. This is Jean Tanjina Hasnat here with you. This session is based on basically the livestock, the pastoral, and the conservation of nature resources. And we have scholars from different countries in this session. We have 4 experts and 5 delegates from the different areas. I hope this session will be a very wonderful session, as this would be a sharing of diversified knowledge from diversified areas of the world. And then, without spending more time, I would like to invite our first lecturers. Before inviting her, I would like to introduce her with you. Please let me share. Okay, and this is Dr. Ilse Köhler-Rollefson. She is a project coordinator of League for Pastoral Peoples and Endogenous Livestock Development, Germany, and co-director of Marwar Camel Culture Festival, Rajasthan, India. She is a veterinarian and as well as an archaeologist. She completed her doctorate on camel domestication. She's basically a writer, activist, fundraiser, teacher, and trainer with a diversified knowledge. And she works towards the policies and practices that support socially responsible and ecologically sustainable livestock development. Welcome, Dr. Ilse Köhler-Rollefson. Please share your screen and provide your valuable lecture. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, super. Thank you so much for inviting me and for putting together this amazing summer school. I just can't believe the logistic challenges this entails. So I'm joining from Rajasthan, India, from the rural areas, and sometimes, most of the time, the internet is pretty good, but if it's not, you just have to bear with me. So the subject I was given is Transhumans, a way of life, truly sustainable. And this picture you see here, it was taken not very far, just a few kilometers from where I live. And it shows a group of Raika shepherds on migration the last day before they're reaching their home village. So the subject I was given is transhumans, but and pastoralism is a way of using land and raising animals that is actually ubiquitous all over the world, but it is often invisible. People just don't know, are not aware of their existence. And my organization, the League for Pastoral Peoples, we recently started a mapping project, and we have already mapped about 600 different pastoralist groups around the world. So you can go to this website if you would like to know more about it. So pastoralism is actually, you find it on the rangelands of the world, which take up about 66% of the world's agricultural land. I mean, just this is just really truly amazing that only on about 30% of the agricultural land you can grow crops. The rest can only be used via livestock, via herding, via pastoralism. India is, yeah, excuse me for bringing in a lot of pictures from India. It's just because that's the situation I know best. So India is actually, you know, it's always perceived as a land of farmers, but in reality, it's a collage of pastoralist culture. Most of them are agro-pastoralists, which are integrated with crop cultivation one way or another. But you find them all over India. And they actually also produce the majority of its livestock products. The pastures of India produce more than 70% of its meat and around 60% of its milk. So it's truly amazing the economic contribution that the pastures of India make, especially considering that India is also the largest exporter of sheep and goat in the world, and it's also the largest exporter of also the largest dairy producers. And you know, the majority of that produce actually comes from pastoralist systems.
Ma'am, can I interrupt one moment? Please go to the
okay.
Slide, Gigi.
The Bildschirm
PPT
presentation.
mode. Please go to
Madam,
the PPT mode.
just press F5. Press F5.
Okay, press F5.
Function key F5.
Just F5 or something else?
Or you just go on the bottom of this slide. Bottom, just.
Can't I just go from here, from the, oh no, sorry.
Yes, you can do from there as well.
No, I'm gonna go from here, up there. There, now.
Yeah, click.
Yeah. Okay, so transhumans is a subset of pastoralism, and it's derived from those two words, from trans for across and humus from earth. And so it entails the seasonal movement of people and herds between summer and winter pastures usually at different altitudes. So animals and herds move from lowlands in the winter to the highlands in the summer. And they go on a set route, and they always have basically the same winter and the same summer pastures. So that is the difference to pastoralism in general, where the movements are much more flexible. Transhumans also occurs actually in not mountainous areas, in flatlands, and these Raika pastoralists from Rajasthan here, they have one place where they stay during the monsoon in the rainy season, and then the other 9 months of the year they are moving around in agricultural areas and using the sheep to convert crop byproducts into products. And if we go back here to this map of India, what you see on the top here, Jammu and Kashmir, those are transhuman pastoralists, the Bakawal, Changpa, Gaddi, Guja. In Himachal Pradesh, again, you have the Gaddi, which are shepherds, the Gujars, which have buffaloes, and the Bakawal are people who raise goats. So northern India is full of transhumans. So transhumans involves multi-species coexistence of human and non-human animals, which can be sheep, goats, buffaloes, cattle, horses, camels, yaks, llamas, and alpacas. and often together with transport animals and guard dogs. And so this group of, of people and of their animals, they form one social structure, one organism. They work together as a team. They have an elected leader, but everybody has a role. So it's a very complex social system in which all duties are shared. This picture, again, it's from Rajasthan, taken just a few months ago, of these people on their way home. Why do people go on transhumans? It has, for them, mostly economic reasons, because in transhuman systems, the animals are more productive. They give more milk and they have higher fertility. The intervals between the births of the animals are less in transhuman herds than in sedentary herds. It also means you can have a higher number of animals than if you keep them year-round in the same place in a sedentary system. It also entails low production costs. You don't have to spend any money on feeding your animals. Fourthly, the products of animals that walk and exercise are healthier and tastier than those raised in intensive systems. And one important point is also that it's not the people who take the animals on migration, but it's the animals themselves, the herds. At a certain time of the year, they become impatient, they want to move. And it's very difficult to herd them back to that place where you're staying. They want to move on to the next place, kind of feel it that, it's time to move. So it's, it's a system, transhumans is a system which is powered both by, by people's intelligence and by animal intelligence. And I find animal intelligence may be much more important than artificial intelligence for coping with the future. And I'll give you one example here from Spain. You'll probably hear more about it from another speaker in this session, Francesca. But I was lucky to visit there recently, and it's the country with the best documented system of transhumans. And this is a very old system that goes back 400 or 500 years ago. And it had royal patronage, and it was set up basically to support the breeding of the merino sheep, which at that time produced very fine wool, and Spain had a monopoly on that wool and on the merino sheep. And it was actually, that wool was the source of the richness of Spain at the time. It enabled Spain to finance Columbus to find India, etc. And so it was for them very important to keep the sheep moving because it was better for the sheep. So this system actually, it consisted of the so-called cañadas, and which are very wide pathways for sheep. They were like up to 70 meters wide, and they cover about 1% of Spain's surface. And they are 124,000 kilometers long, or 8-9 times the length of Spain's current railway system. So these systems, they fell into disuse in the earliest 20th century when it became possible to transport the flocks by train. And that had all kinds of ecological consequences. So basically it was recognized, I'll expand on that a little bit later, that these transhumans is really important for the ecology and wildlife of Spain. And in 1995, Spain passed new legislation to protect the network. And you have this photo here, and this is a drinking place for the sheep and in the background you see between the forest there, that's actually a cañada. So these are very wide roads. Then in India, we, of course, the Himalayas, it looks like nothing is growing there, but actually, these sheep, this is a Gadi shepherd, he's taking his sheep up into the alpine pasture where there's very nutritious and healthy grass for the sheep and for the goats to eat, and which really, and it's the minerals in that forage that keeps the animals healthy and also produces really good products. We also have transhumans in Western Africa, and actually the majority of the Sahel's cattle and a large proportion of its sheep and goats are kept in this transhuman system, and it's basically the only way of utilizing that arid area. And again here, these transhuman systems supply about 65% of cattle meat and 40% of mutton and goat meat and 70% of milk. I mean, it's truly amazing the output of these transhuman systems. Transhumans has a lot of ecological benefits, and actually from what I have heard, the transhuman roots often follow the ancient roots of the wild herd animals, and they connect ecosystems for genetic exchange. So Spain, for instance, has like several different biological areas, and it's the sheep and the goats who move, and they bring new genetic resources from one place to the other. They transport seeds and insects and other small animals in their wool, and especially that carrying the seeds seems to be of major importance in times of climate change, because it enables plants to move, to adapt and to move to new ecosystems. And there are also calculations on the value if you transform this into commercial value, the seed exchange, there are some really big figures come out. And we must also remember that many of our most beloved landscapes were actually created by pastoralists. On the left, we can see this is the Spanish dehesa, which is a silvi agro-pastoral systems in which pigs and sheep and goat and also cattle are kept. And the pigs, for instance, they eat these the acorns of these oak trees. Or in Germany, on the right, you have, this is the Lüneburg Heath. It's also a very famous holiday area, and it's been created by sheep grazing. And there are many, many of the most natural, what we think are natural landscapes, like the Tibetan plateau, they've actually been shaped by pastoralists and their grazing animals over the thousands of years. One really important aspect also of which transhumans and pastoralism ensures is that there is manure in the landscape, and the manure is actually at the bottom of the food chain, because it's a haven for insects, and the insects then get eaten by birds and so on. There, it's at the bottom of the food chain. So having herbivores, grazing animals in the landscape is incredibly important for biological diversity. Similar situation is in Africa also, where pastoralism has existed since several thousands of years, and actually where people had their temporary settlements, their bomas, because the dung accumulates there, then this creates really hotspots of biodiversity in the long run. So we have here a situation where humans don't enjoy biodiversity, but they are actually supporting it. They're creating it. Pastoralism or grazing is also the only way of maintaining biodiversity-rich meadows. Studies have been done which show that if you mow grassland, you actually kill an enormous percentage of cicadas and of other animals. So grazing is really the only way of maintaining biodiversity in the world's grasslands. So this is one of the reasons why at the moment of bringing back biodiversity, and the pioneer in this who's actually he's a naturalist, a wildlife person, and he was in charge of taking care of several national parks in Spain, and he realized the importance of sheep for maintaining it. And he also realized that because when sheep were started to being transported by a train, then they stayed they were at there wasn't that time for migrating anymore, so they arrived at the wrong places at the wrong time and actually started killing trees that were just emerging. They were eating it at the wrong time of the year, so because they were not on migration anymore. So he's put a lot of effort into bringing back the transhumans, and he started an organization called Consejo de la Mesta, which is, again, the Mesta was the earlier sheep herding organization which created the merino sheep, etc. It's also a very, an old organization, an old system of managing Spanish sheep and Spanish sheep production and managing the land. And he's also bringing back trying to bring back the whole culture around shepherding, which also includes bellwethers, for instance. These are castrated male sheep and goats which act as leaders of the herd and which the whole flock follows. And they have a very close relationship to people and listen to them, and they are trained to lead the herd. And this is a characteristic of shepherding systems in the Mediterranean area, who keep away the predators, which are a lot. There are wolves and so on in these areas. So there's a whole culture around the transhumans. And it's not just in Spain where it's being revived, also here, since it's the Ukraine summer school here, I found this example also in the Carpathians. There are efforts to revive the transhumans. And in 2013, a shepherd did a really long trip through, starting in the Czech Republic and then going to Slovakia and to Romania. So, and then in 2019, the transhumans was actually recognized as intangible cultural heritage of humanity at the application of 3 countries, Austria, Greece, and which one is the other one? Another country. And there's now an effort to really, to revive it across Europe. And you'll probably hear more about that in other lectures by Francesca later on, because it's from her I learned all about this. Also people like this professor from Nevada, who projects transhumans as antidote for modern sedentary stock raising. And I think there is a lot to that. I mean, in these days and age, there is such a big anti-livestock lobby and it is there for a reason, because the industrial systems are bad for the animals, bad for the environment, bad for food quality, bad, I mean, from almost all perspectives, except producing cheap products. So transhumans is actually, yes, it's the alternative model, which we really need to bring back in the future, I think, because it has only positive impact. I mean, it doesn't have any, I just can't find anything negative about it. The only thing is, of course, it does not produce as much as industrial livestock keeping. It doesn't. But it has the one big advantage. It's a way of making use of variability, whereas, normal, I mean, the modern livestock keeping, it's all about creating standardized conditions, uniform conditions. The animals, that it's exactly, they need to be kept under certain standardized conditions, and they need standardized feed, and they get mature in a standard number of days. And if they don't get slaughtered at that stage, then there is a huge problem, because they don't fit the abattoirs. So whereas pastoralism is a way, it goes with the flow. It's a way of using, making variability work, as my friend and colleague Saverio Cretley always says. It's a way of, and so it prepares us ideally for coping with climate change. It also keeps the groundwater clean and integrates with wildlife. That's a nice thing. I mean, it's not about wildlife, you know, human wildlife or domestic animal wildlife conflict. They can actually coexist in many coexist. And where I live here, there are a lot of leopards. They eat some of the sheep and goats, but the Raika, they accept that. They say, I mean, the leopard also needs to live. So the most pastoralists have actually a very positive outlook on wildlife. And what I like best about it is the fact that it's animal welfare friendly, and the animals in pastoral systems actually have longer lifespans than in the wild and in industrial systems. So it's a way of taking care of and that's really the attractive thing about it. So yes, so that's my presentation. Thank you very much. Another picture here from my neighboring area of these pastoralists whom I'm very fascinated by. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You are in very timely presented your lecture. You really said that India is a land of farmer actually, and you already discussed about many things elaborately. The seasonal movement, about the ecological benefits of transhumans, and how the pastoralism maintain biodiversity, the transhumans revival, and you have presented the pictorial examples from different countries like Spain, India, Himalayas, West Africa, and the pictorial presentation was very nice, very wonderful. Thank you